Many students I have seen, they do not have patience. They want results in a very less time span. They're just studying, they just read one book. Now they want that all their questions should become correct. That's not possible. You need to put efforts in the right direction for a very long time period to get the right results. So this quote clearly says, strength and growth come only through continuous effort and struggle. So when you read, revise twice, thrice, 10 times, do the PYQs, give the mock test, after this struggle or after all of these efforts, then you become strong, then you grow, then you clear the examination. So I hope with this daily motivation, we can start with our daily news analysis. So today, as part of DNA, we are going to discuss 5 important articles from The Hindu and Indian Express. The first article of the day is nearly 2 lakh child marriages were prevented in a year. Now this is being said by the Minister of Women and Child Welfare. So we'll discuss the issue of child marriage that exists in India. We'll understand the statistics, how this issue is prevailing, what are the drivers, everything. The second topic is related to this drone, logistic drone which Indian Army has recently received. So we'll understand what is logistic drone and the special features of this particular drone. The third topic is related to right to work. Now recently we got a news related to MGNREGA. The job cards given in MGNREGA, there is some kind of a deletion and that is being discussed over here. So we'll understand the issue. The fourth article is related to big tech. So there are some companies whom we call as big tech, just like Meta, just like Google, Microsoft, etc. So those platforms are now getting regulated. There is a discussion how we can regulate them. And there is some tussle between these big techs and our media companies or news channels or newspapers. All these who share some kind of a content. So here we'll understand that particular part. And the last article is related to Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire. We got recent news that Israel is ready for ceasefire. Hezbollah is also ready for ceasefire. So we'll understand that part in brief. So all these 5 articles are important for today. Now let's start with the first article itself. 2 lakh child marriages were prevented. Is it important? Yes, it is important for prelims as well as mains, but more important for mains GS paper 1 where we discuss about Indian society aspect. So one of the cruel things or one of the things which we consider as a negative part of Indian society is the prevalence of child marriage. So you look at this question, previous year question, which is related to women in India. Empowering women is the key to control population growth. Discuss. Now, when such questions are asked, which are focused more on empowerment of women, child marriage becomes one of the angle which we need to understand as part of women empowerment. Okay? Now, let's start with what is exactly happening. So we said that our Union Women and Child Development Ministry or Child Welfare Ministry specifically to say. From that ministry we got some data. The data claims that we have achieved something really good. That the child marriage numbers are reducing. They have become half. They have shown the data over here that earlier it was 47.4% and now it became 23.3%. So this is something good. And this data is being compared with this particular act, because when we are saying earlier it was 47.4%, it was before the introduction of this act. We brought an act in the year 2006. The name is Prevention of Child Marriage Act. We have some provisions in this act and we are saying because of this we are now in a position to reduce child marriage numbers. Okay, so it becomes highly important for us to understand this act. Before that, what do we mean by child marriage in simple? So we understand child getting married, but whom do we call a child? So in legal terms, the definition of child is given under this act, Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. Definition says, if any person, especially if that person is a girl and her age is 18 years, then she can get married. And if you are a boy, then your age criteria is 21. then you can get married. But if you are getting married when you have not crossed this age limit, then it will be considered as child marriage. So you should know in legal terms what is this specific age criteria to consider you as a child. Okay, now moving forward, understand how much or what kind of prevalence of child marriage exists in India specifically. So there are number of data, number of reports we get many a times. For example, there is this report from United Nations Children's Fund. In that report, they provided data related specifically to India. They said that almost 15 lakh women under the age of 18, they get married in India. That means child marriage of somewhere around 15 lakh girls. It is being shown. Similarly, another data says that 1 out of 3 world's child brides are in India. So that means the kind of child marriage takes place in entire world. India has a very good or very substantial proportion in that child marriage. So it's important. Now there are some other data too. These data are just for you to mention in your answers. When you're writing an answer mentioning this particular point related to child marriage, we expect that you actually write down one of these data. So you don't need to remember all of them. There will be many other data like National Family Health Survey 5. They also provided some data. You don't need to remember everything. But just for understanding, there are 8 states in India which are having highest prevalence of child marriage, and out of those 8, these are the 3 which are at the top: West Bengal, Bihar and Tripura. Now there is a connection shown by National Family Health Survey 5 that in a state where education level is higher, where literacy level is higher, over there child marriage is relatively less. So if you look at the data from Kerala, we have observed that relatively child marriages taking place in Kerala are very less as compared to these states. That means there is a connection of education when it comes to child marriage, right? You can see the trend also. In the answers, you can mention the trend also. So for example, National Family Health Survey 3, 2005-6, their data shows the child marriage over here. And this is how we see the decline taking place till this National Family Health Survey 5. So you can make such graphs in your answers also. Now, first of all, we want to know why this child marriage takes place in India. What are the drivers of this child marriage? The first is our poverty. One of the issue is poverty. Yes, we are poor, but what is the relation? See, when the family is poor and a traditional society like India, a patriarchal society like India, where usually when the children get married, the girl has to go to another family. Now here the marriage is a responsibility for the parents, and when it comes to a girl child, it is considered to be some kind of financial burden on the family. So what the family wants, as soon as possible, the marriage should take place. Most importantly, when the age of that child is less, then the cost of marriage will be relatively low. Why? Where we have angle of dowry, we have to give dowry. So when the age of the girl child increases, then after some time you will have to give more dowry, more amount in the dowry. So considering all these angles, because we Indians are poor, so for us, child marriage becomes an easy option considering our poverty, so that in less amount we can get this marriage done. Then the second point is about social expectation. See, women in India is considered to play the role of a woman as mother or as wife or as a sister. Specifically, the role of wife and role of mother is considered to be more important than any other thing. So, usually if you see the boys, they focus on career, they focus on education. But when it comes to girls, it is expected from girls that they give priority to their role as mother or wife than their personal career, personal growth. So, child marriage becomes very obvious thing when it comes to girls, because they are not supposed to focus on their career. They are not supposed to focus on their education, graduation, etc. etc. They'll go ahead and get married. That's why child marriage is an option. Then third, they lack education. Girls do not have that much education or awareness about their own rights, that they have right to get education, that they have right to work, they don't know about it. And when you lack education, you don't get much opportunities. See, if you are well educated, you will have immense opportunities. Let's say in economic terms, you can get different kinds of jobs. But if you are not educated, you will not have much opportunities available. So that's a challenge. Apart from that, the social norms that exist in India, social norms or customs, we can say, those norms are very much patriarchal in nature. So you will see that many a times you will hear this in your families, that women or girls are supposed to protect the honor of family. So many a times, why child marriage is done? Because there is a chance that a girl might lose her virginity. So to protect her from getting into this act, which will lead to some crisis for the family in terms of honor, nobody will respect that family just because of this act. So it should not happen. That's why they'll go ahead with the child marriage. Then there are some safety concerns which we cannot neglect. That in India, the gender based violence is very normal. Many times we have seen that women are either not given the respect or the dignity which they deserve to get. Many times we see the cases of rape or sexual violence. Such things happen in India, and that's why there is a concern of safety. So many times families feel that in order to protect these girls, it's better to get them married as early as soon as possible. So child marriage becomes an option over here. Dowry system we already discussed. And at last, the thing is, the society itself lacks the awareness about child marriage. Even if government brings some kind of an act wherein government is saying that there should not be any child marriage, but people are not aware of those acts. People are not aware of why there should not be child marriage, what kind of impact it will have on that women. They don't have idea about it. That's why overall we see that child marriage still exists in India even when we are in 2024. Okay, I hope you understand. Now, we understood how child marriage is prevailing, why it is prevailing. Now, what is its impact? The specific impact it will have on those childs, or we can say specifically on women who are getting married. Firstly, in that lesser age, let's say someone is getting married at the age of 12 or 13, they will go to some physical harm and psychological harm. They are not ready for the marriage, they are not ready for the physical activities or sexual intercourse, and because of which they will go through this physical harm or psychological harm. Then there is something called right to autonomy or right to choice. We have Article 21 in the Constitution which says that we have right to life and personal liberty. We say this thing. But please understand, when we talk about right to life and personal liberty, we talk about autonomy to take our own decisions. But in a patriarchal society like India, there is hardly any choice or any autonomy given to women, especially if you're a girl child. So here, they don't have the ability, they don't have the decision making authority when it comes to their own marriage. So they can't decide anything. And this is something very important for us to know. Then there is angle of education and economy. See, when you don't get education and you do not have much opportunities, specifically economic opportunities, because you're not so educated, so you're not getting any job in the market, so you become dependent on your either parents or your husband or in-laws. Now you remain dependent. So that means you are one of the most poor person to be seen. So what will happen? If you are poor, if you are in the poverty, you will continue to stay in the poverty because you lack education or economic opportunities, right? And second thing, you will remain dependent throughout your life. Most importantly, when you are dependent on some other person, you are a female person who is dependent on a male, then what will happen? This male will dominate. This male will ensure that he is above you. So this gender inequality will continue. So we are seeing overall this child marriage has relation with this gender inequality and poverty. Okay. Now Moving ahead, we said that we had brought an act which prevents these child marriages. This act, Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. Now, if we see the key features of this particular act, it says that first of all, it has defined what is child marriage. We talked about the age 18 and 21. After that, the act says that in case someone goes for child marriage, in case someone is going or someone is facilitating this marriage, someone is supporting this marriage, then there will be a fine of rupees 1 lakh or 2 years of rigorous imprisonment. See, normal imprisonment is different. Rigorous imprisonment means you will have to do some hard labor in the jail itself. So it's a tough thing. These measures are taken against such individuals. Then we bring this child marriage prohibition officers. Now these officers are supposed to ensure that there does not take place any kind of child marriage in the country. So in their locality, what they will do, they will collect the evidences, they'll go to the courts, they'll go for arranging some mechanisms through which awareness can be created among people. So this is the task of these child marriage prohibition officers. Then most important thing which I consider is, in this act they have made child marriage as a cognizable and non-bailable offense. What do you mean by cognizable? There is something called cognizable offense, there is something called non-cognizable offense. Simply, if a policeman is coming to you and showing you a warrant, they can arrest you. But when it comes to any cognizable offense, we consider that this offense is very, very serious, and police officer does not require to bring any kind of warrant. They can arrest you without any warrant. That's why we are calling it cognizable offense and non-bailable also. That means you're not going to get any bail easily. Usually such offenses include murder, rape, etc. So you can see how much importance is given by this law to this offense of child marriage. They want to curb it as soon as possible. Okay. Now, look at the constitution, look at the international forums. What do they say about child marriage, or specifically the rights involved in it? For example, if you look at the Constitution of India, we have Article 21, which we discussed already, right to life and personal liberty. Then we have Article 14 also, which talks about right to equality. Article 15 talks about protection against any kind of discrimination. You see, when child marriage is taking place, there is some kind of discrimination between boys and girls. You just look at the age criteria. That age criteria itself is discriminatory. And there are many other things which are leading to violation of these all articles. So we are saying Constitution provides mechanism, Constitution provides the rights which should be protected, and child marriage goes against the fundamental rights itself. Then if you look at the international forums, you look at this convention, UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, or you look at the Sustainable Development Goals. There is a Sustainable Development Goal target 5.3. If you read this, you will know that they include the angle of child marriage. This target clearly says that we have to eliminate child marriage from the entire world by the year 2030. So overall, these mechanisms are showing that whether it is world government or United Nations or the international forums or our constitution or our laws, everyone is saying child marriage should be eliminated completely. Now, what has government done till now in regard to curb or eliminate child marriage? So there are various mechanisms. First, this act which we have already discussed, Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. Then recently government said that we want to increase this age limit. We said that 18 is the age limit for girls and 21 for boys. Now recently what government said, we want to increase this age of girls from 18 to 21, make it same as boys. So if a girl wants to get married, she has to be of the age of 21 and not 18. Now this is something government has decided they'll go ahead with this, but for that they will have to amend this particular act, Prohibition of Child Marriage Act. Okay. Then government brought Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme. Clearly shows that the importance of education is being promoted over here. So through education, through awareness we can reduce child marriage. Then government brought this child line 1098. It's a 24 by 7 helpline available for children. They can call on this particular number anytime in case there is some kind of issue they are facing, specifically if it is child marriage issue. Then we have National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. So through a parliamentary act, we brought this commission. This commission takes care of issues related to children. So they will come up with some reports, they'll come up with some data, they'll support some programs which eliminate child marriage. And at last, we have some financial incentives given by governments. For example, if you look at some programs by state governments, let's say Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh has this Jagananna Amma Vodi, this kind of a program. Or you look at Rajasthan, they have Mukhyamantri Kanyadan Yojana. Now these are the schemes which state governments are bringing, wherein they are saying, if you delay your child's marriage, then in that case we will provide you some amount of money, some kind of financial incentive will be given. So when you are said that just delay the marriage of your child, especially the girl child, and we'll pay you something. So some incentives are there. Overall, we are saying these are the measures taken by government so that child marriage can be eliminated, and we are relatively successful because the numbers have become half. This was the context. So we are going in a right direction, we can say. Clear? So this is all about this child marriage news. Done? Now, let's move towards second news item. Now, what is the news? Second news is related to Indian Army. Recently, a specific drone has been inducted. It was brought in Indian Army and it will be used in the eastern sector of Indian Army. So, if you divide the map of India, this is the map of India, let's say. So, in the eastern sector, this part specifically, we are saying Indian Army is going to make use of this specific drone. So we want to know what is this drone. Now, the name is Sabal 20. Now this is important specifically for your prelims as well as in the mains. You can talk about this border management or some kind of security challenges we face in the border areas. There you can mention about these logistic drones which we are using. Okay. Look at this previous year question. Border management is a complex task due to difficult terrain and hostile relations with some countries. Elucidate the challenges and strategies for effective border management. So when you are writing such a comprehensive answer, then in that case you will have to mention about the technologies we are using or the defense equipments we are using. So this drone can be one of the example in such questions. Okay. Now let's look at this particular drone. First of all, those who don't know what is drone, we call drone as UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle. So simply you can say any aircraft which is driven not by a human being. You do not need any pilot to sit inside that aircraft. It can move automatically or it does not need human being in it. That is drone. Okay, it can be a very small aircraft, it can be larger one, anything. Everything that can be considered as unmanned. There is no man sitting inside. That unmanned aerial vehicle is a drone. Okay. Now, the name of this drone is Sabal 20 logistic drone. We are calling it logistic drone. Why logistic? Because we are going to use it only for logistic purpose. What do we mean by logistic? The transportation. That you want something to be taken from one place to another. There are some goods or some supplies. Let's say there is a war going on. For example, war is going on in Kashmir. So you want that some medical equipment to be sent from Punjab to Kashmir. So this transportation which is going to take place, that will be done by logistic drone. Okay, so you can send medical supplies, you can send food, you can send ammunition, anything can be sent. Okay, depending on its capacity to carry the weight. Now, usually we make use of such drones, logistic drones, when we are going in an area which is very tough for us to go normally. For example, there is a mountainous region, there is a forest region where usually you cannot send your normal vehicles. It's difficult to send the normal vehicles. So military movement is difficult. In that case, it becomes very easy that you send such a drone. It can send whatever you want, right? So these are logistic drones. Now specifically, let's talk about Subal 20. Why we are discussing this? First of all, it's an indigenously developed drone. Indigenously means we have developed in India. We are not dependent on any other country to make such a logistic drone. So we have IIT Kanpur and we have this startup company Endure Air, defense startup company. Both of these combine or they collaborated to develop this Subal 20 logistic drone. Now look at some key features. First of all, it is electrically unmanned helicopter. You can call it helicopter or drone, doesn't matter. The point is, it is driven or it is fueled by electricity. It doesn't require any fossil fuel or any other thing. It will make use of electricity. So what happens is that usually when you are making use of electricity or electrically powered system, the maintenance cost is very less. So when maintenance cost is less, you can say that it is a cost effective device. The amount you are going to spend and the time for which you are going to use this particular thing, that is very much good. It is cost effective, it is reliable, a very good one. Then it has a specific technology called variable pitch technology. What is variable pitch technology? See, you don't need to get into the technical aspects, but if I have to simply say, the rotors or blades that are there in this particular drone, these are the blades. For example, here also in this image you can see, here are these blades which move, right? So these blades can change their angle during the flight. So let's say this drone is moving, okay? This kind of blades are there, they can change their angle. Now this is very difficult. This is not a normal thing. It's an advanced technology, we can say. The name is variable pitch technology. That angle is termed as pitch. So pitch can be changed. It can be variable. That's why the name variable pitch. Then look at the payload capacity. So it can carry somewhere around weight of 20 kgs, and this 20 kg is somewhat 50% of this drone itself. Means the weight of the drone itself is somewhere around 40 kg and it can carry 20 more kgs, which is a tough thing. So it's a good thing that payload capacity is substantially good. Then it has tandem rotor configuration. Now this is the term we usually see in case of United States of America's Chinook helicopter. This is a very famous helicopter USA has. You can see over here, Chinook helicopter. Specific thing about this Chinook is that they will have two different rotors. So here they have different blades which are moving and here differently they have blades. What happens is that when you have two different such blades or rotors available, then the weight can be distributed. See, if you have just one, then entire weight has to be carried out by this rotor. But when you have two, the weight will be distributed and it can remain very, very stable. See, specifically, if you want that your helicopter or your aircraft or your drone should move vertically like this. So through this mechanism, when you have two different rotors, then it is very easy for vertical movement. It can directly easily move vertically. Okay, otherwise normally what aircraft require, they require that they have to move in one particular direction and then they take off. You don't need that. Here you can directly go vertically and then go away wherever you want to go. Now this facility, which we call as tandem rotor configuration, this is important because if you are going for a very sensitive military mission where you want that your movement should be very easy, especially let's say an operation is being carried out in forest, so you will not have any runway where you can directly go like any aircraft, so you will not have much space over there. So you will want that such two rotors should allow it to take off vertically directly. Okay, Very interesting, we can say. Then the low RPM design for stealth. Now again, technical, it seems technical, but it's very easy. RPM is revolution per minute. These rotors, which or blades you can say, which are moving in a circle, they are completing one revolution, right? This one complete circle is one revolution. So in a minute, how many revolutions they complete? This is revolution per minute. Obviously, if this revolution per minute or RPM is more, obviously they can carry more weight, they can go easily, move easily. All these things are there. In case of this particular drone, this RPM is less. Now, what's the benefit of that? When any helicopter or any drone whose revolution per minute is more, it will create more noise. Have you seen any helicopter? You know how much noise it produces. But in case this is very slow, relatively slow, then we can say the noise will be less. So when you are conducting any military operation, you don't want that your enemies to know that we have sent some drone over there. So here this low RPM will ensure that the enemies cannot detect your device. They cannot know that we have sent something. We are spying on you, something like that. So this will lead to stealth technology. We use this term stealth to showcase that nobody is gonna detect us. Okay. And at last, one last feature of this drone is it has autonomous capabilities. Many of the functions of this drone are done automatically. You don't need human intervention again and again. Automatically it will carry out its functions. So it is again can be said that somewhat like artificial intelligence. It does its work automatically. You don't need a human being to look at it. Similarly, autonomously these things are carried out. Just like a self-driving car, you can say. Okay. So all these are features of this Subal 20 logistic drone. This is the drone. Clear? A good article, we can say. Okay. Now, the third article of the day. Now, this article is related to MGNREGA, MGNREGA, and we are discussing about right to work. See, the topic is important for prelims as well as mains. In the mains, we discuss about welfare programs brought by government policies that are brought in. All this includes one of the program or very important program called as MGNREGA. Look at this previous year question. Recognition of prior learning scheme is sometimes mentioned in the news with reference to which of the following? Now, similar question can be asked on the MGNREGA scheme. So, what is MGNREGA? The long form is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Now, this is under Ministry of Rural Development of India. What this particular act says or this scheme says is that if you are a person who is living in the rural part of India, rural part, not urban part, and you do not have any job, you are unemployed. In that case, you can reach out to the Gram Sabha of your area, and from there, government will ensure that you get some kind of work. You will be getting 100 days of work in a particular year. In 1 year, you will definitely get 100 days of work from the government. If government is not able to give you that work, government will at least give you the payment, the money amount. Definitely they will give you. Okay. Now this scheme is in news. Why? Because recently when we saw the government data, government provides job cards for this MGNREGA. That if you are getting job from the government, then government will provide that job card that you are eligible for some kind of work in the rural area. So these card data, when it was published, we saw that in the year 21-22, 1.49 crore job card were deleted. Then in the year 22-23, 5.53 crore this job cards are deleted. Means these many number of people have been excluded, deleted from the list. That means government is saying they are not eligible for MGNREGA scheme. Now we are concerned why this is suddenly happening, that so many people are getting out of this. Why government is removing this? Now we saw another thing or a parallel thing happening. That is, government is pushing for Aadhaar based payment system. So even if you're going for Manrega scheme, when the payment has to be provided from government side to these people, to get the payment in your bank account, now government has said that you have to link your Aadhaar card. If the Aadhaar card is not linked, will not give you payment. So we are seeing some kind of coincidence wherein people are getting deleted from the job cards. At the same time, government is pushing for this Aadhaar based payment system. So there is a conclusion that because of government's action, many people are getting deleted from these job cards. They are not getting job cards. That means they are not eligible for Manrega scheme, which is a very negative thing to see. Okay. Now look at Manrega. We say the first provision of MGNREGA is legal guarantee of employment. We are giving employment guarantee through law to the people of rural parts of India, that government will give you employment for sure. If you are not giving, then we'll give you payment. So the employment will be for 100 days and it will be for unskilled manual labor. Unskilled labor, it could be anything. Okay, let's say you are digging some kind of a digging a well in the rural area, you're constructing something, all these unskilled works where you do not require any skill, there you can go ahead with. Okay, now we said job cards are given. So it's a kind of list made by the government, or we can say here in this case Gram Sabha or Gram Panchayat. Specifically, we can say Gram Sabha. Gram Sabha has a key role because in rural area we have this local government which is Gram Panchayat, and the legislative body is Gram Sabha. Now here Gram Sabha has key role to play. They'll come up with a list of people, they will identify the adult people, then they'll give that list to the government, then whatever work is to be assigned to these people, that will also be decided by Gram Sabha. Okay, so this is how the entire mechanism works. Now, why this MGNREGA scheme is important? What is its significance? First of all, India is a very poor country, especially Indians are very poor. So to reduce poverty, alleviate poverty, we need something which can give us some amount of money through employment. Now we do not have much jobs. So now we are saying government is giving them jobs. So they will earn some amount of money and reduce some poverty. Second is women empowerment. How? If you look at MGNREGA scheme, it clearly mentions that all the jobs that we are giving to people in the rural area, the adults, 1/3 of them should be women. So here we are empowering women. Then if you look at any kind of crisis taking up, for example, when COVID-19 came, many people from urban area, they migrated back to their villages. Now when they went back to their villages, they had nothing to do. They had no employment as such. So what they did, they went to their Gram Sabha and they asked for some kind of work. They asked them to provide that job card and provide them some work. So to handle such a crisis when people do not have any other choice but to look for government to do something for them, in that case you can manage that crisis using such schemes. Okay, and then we have Article 21, right to life and personal liberty. This article is now interpreted as including this right to livelihood also. That means you have fundamental right to get livelihood, to get a particular job, and this is the responsibility of government or state to provide it. That's why we are saying this MGNREGA is a very, very important scheme. Okay. Now, what are the reasons behind the surge in deletions? Means recently we said now that so many job cards or the people's name have been deleted from the list of MGNREGA eligible people. So why suddenly this number has increased? It has become somewhere around 5 crores. Why? First of all, there is a pressure on government officials to link Aadhaar cards of people with their job cards of Manrega. So under pressure, many times officials, they go for some kind of shortcuts. So we have seen some arbitrary deletions taking place. Arbitrary means on their own, they deleted some names. For example, they have mentioned that a person is not willing to work, that's why we have deleted. Some people seem to be duplicate applicants or fake applicants, they are not original ones, so we deleted them. Some people have migrated to urban area, that's why we are deleting them. So they have mentioned such reasons and deleted people's names. So we are feeling that this is arbitrary. This is something where you should have checked, should have verified. They haven't verified. How would you verify? You should contact that particular person or worker, or you should get in touch with Gram Sabha. But these officials, they did this act of deletion without taking the people of that region or the Gram Sabha into confidence. That's why we are concerned. That's why it is in news. Okay? Clear? So this was the, which one? Third article which we covered. Okay, just 1 second. Now, the fourth article of the day. This is related to big tech, that is Amazon or Meta or Google, Microsoft, such big tech platforms, big technology companies. We are saying that there is a need to regulate these companies. Now, this topic is important for prelims as well as mains, and specifically in mains, you can say in GS paper 2 as well as GS paper 3. In both the papers, this topic becomes important. Okay, now look at this previous year question. Discuss section 66A of IT Act with reference to its alleged violation of Article 19 of the Constitution. Now to answer this, you should know what is this section 66A, which is in news again and again. You should know Article 19, then only you can answer, right? Now this news will give you a brief understanding of what's exactly happening right now. If you look at these companies, the logo, I hope you see the logo and understand which companies we are specifically referring to. These are considered to be the top 5 or biggest players in the technology market. Now, right now, there is a tussle between these big tech platforms and news publishers. We have news publishers, newspapers like The Hindu, Indian Express, all these newspaper agencies, or the online news media that is present. All these news agencies or news publishers, they have some problem with these companies. What's the problem? Well, these news companies or news agencies, they work really hard. They spend a lot of money. They send their news reporters to different localities, come up with news items, and then they publish that news on their platform, let's say on their website, or through the newspaper, the printed newspaper, they provide it, right? Now, what these platforms are doing, here there are so many users like me or you who are just copying this news from here and posting it on their website. And now, because of the content which is going on the website or these tech platforms are earning lots of money. So now these news publishers are saying, you are using our content. We publish that content. You're using that content and you're earning lot of money and you're not sharing that money with us. We require money. We should get that money because we deserve to get that. We have some contribution in it. But they are not doing it because there is no law which says that they will have to share this amount with the newspaper publishers. So this is the conflict, the core conflict. So right now, there is a demand from these news publishers that there should be fair compensation and revenue sharing. That's the same thing. You should share the revenue that you are earning. Okay. Now, what these big platforms are saying? Well, they're not ready, obviously. Nobody will accept that we will give you money. So they're not ready, obviously. But now we are observing one trend in the entire world where governments are taking some action against these big tech platforms so that they can regulate them to some extent. See, the point is very important. These big techs have become very powerful and there is a power imbalance right now. See, usually we say that in a country, the state itself is the most powerful entity. State, or you can say government also, they are the most powerful. Then there comes up with some non-state actors like some kind of NGO or a private company or any other organization. But these big tech platforms, they have become very powerful. They are becoming powerful, more powerful even than the state itself. So there is a power imbalance. So right now it is being said that there is a need to regulate them so that they remain in a balanced position. So now what is happening in other countries? You see Australia and France, they have already introduced some law wherein fair revenue sharing has to take place. So some kind of agreement has taken place. These companies, big five, have to pay some extra amount. Now similarly, if you look at other countries such as Europe, the European Union, they have come up with laws like Digital Markets Act, Digital Services Act. In United States of America, they have this antitrust law. In Australia, they have the Online Safety Act. Now, we are observing one trend in the entire world through these acts is that the world community is becoming serious about these big tech platforms and they are trying to regulate it. Not every country has done it, but there is a trend. And now it is being said that even India should go ahead by regulating these big tech platforms. Now, if you look at India specifically, earlier we had a parliamentary standing committee which gave its report in the year 2022 December. In that report, they have shown that these big tech companies, they are coming up with some practices which are anti-competitive. See, we have a free market. Anyone can build its own company. They can compete. But sometimes some companies, they do some practices which will completely vanish or destroy the competition itself. For example, let's say we have Google as a company and we want, let's say I have built my own company and I want to do some kind of advertisement on Google as a platform. But what Google will do, they will charge me to go ahead with some kind of advertisement on their platform. But they will give more preference or priority to one of the ad which is given by Google itself. So we are competitors, it's a platform, so it should be a good competition, but they will give importance to their own products. For example, on Google Play Store, if you search something, let's say you are searching for UPI apps, so at the top there will be Google Pay. There will not be any other phone pay or Bheem or anything. Similar things happen many a times. And we say that when you give preference to your own platform, this goes against the competitive practices. There won't be any competition in that country then. Only few will become the best one in the market and others cannot compete rightly. So the report, this standing committee report, they have shown these anti-competitive practices. For example, there are companies who are not allowing any alternate payment method. Why? Because you have to pay the money to them. Then self-preference, which I have already told. Some related services. For example, if you are buying something from Zomato or Swiggy, they'll say that you will have obviously the product will be delivered to you only by us. You can't use any other delivery service. We will deliver it to you. Similar things are there. Then they're making use of some non-public data. See, these companies, these top big five, these companies have substantial data available with them. And this data is not publicly available. For example, you have made account on Meta. They know your name, address. They know many other things about you. And similarly, such data is available with other Google also or any other company. Now, this data, they are going to use it to come up with a product which is very personalized just for you. They know all your choices. What do you like, what you don't like, everything. Now compare this big company with a small company or a newcomer in the market. They don't have this much data. So even if they want to compete, they cannot compete because they don't have access to this data. So somewhere there is monopoly on this data, which is not public right now. Then many times they go for mergers and acquisitions. Some big company will come, and if there is a new smaller company which is growing, which is competing with everyone, they'll just say that we are paying you some amount, merge with us. They'll acquire that company. They will completely buy that company. This is very common, we see. Then they provide deep discounts. Now this is something very interesting. As a customer, we feel that these discounts are very good. But look at it from competition perspective. that these big tech players, they can provide deep discounts, big discounts. Normal company cannot. So the competition is destroyed over here. They'll go ahead with some exclusive tie-ups or partnership with big brands. Now there will be smaller brands also. Then this is not good for them. They will give preference to sponsored products. We said that the one who are paying them some extra amount, they'll give them more importance on their websites or their platform. They'll not allow third party applications. Likewise, self preference we already discussed. So these are all the points which are discussed by parliamentary committee in India. So I'm trying to show you how things are becoming relatively clear, that these big tech platforms are going ahead with some wrong practices. Now, what is currently happening? Right now, if you look at the present setup in India, we have this Competition Act which was brought in the year 2002. This act brings Competition Commission of India. It establishes this body, and this body has to take care of competition. In case there is any company which is coming up with a wrong practice, which is anti-competitive, in that case, this Competition Commission of India can put some fine, some penalty, or take any action against this kind of a company. So their motive is to ensure that competition stays in the market. There is no anti-competitive practices, right? Now we are saying we already have this law. Then why are we discussing any regulation? Well, because there is a provision which we call as safe harbor provision, which is there in USA also, which is there in India also, which says that in case there is a user, let's say a user like you and me, we are generating some content. I am posting something on Facebook, I am posting something on Instagram. This is my content. I posted it on Instagram. Now Instagram does not take any responsibility for whatever I have posted. Instagram says that I don't care if the people are posting something, how can we be responsible? So if I post something from Indian Express and put it over here on Instagram or any other website, they are saying we are not responsible for that. So there is this clause. If you look at USA, they have this Communications Decency Act. And similarly in India, we have IT Act of 2000, and there is a section called Section 79. These sections, whether in USA or India, they give some immunity to this user generated content. Instagram will say, it is not our content. Our users have generated it. So we are not responsible. So similarly, we are saying because of this provision, even if we have this Competition Act and all, it becomes useless because of this immunity they are getting. So now when we are discussing that we should regulate it, so there is a discussion going on that we should bring some new act. So there is a plan that government is thinking on bringing Digital India Act. So there is a chance we can bring some additional regulation towards these big tech platforms through this particular Digital India Act. Clear? That was the fourth article. Now the last article of the day, a very short one, but a good news, that Israel and Hezbollah have become ready for a ceasefire. Ceasefire means they have been fighting. Now they are saying we'll stop the firing. Will not carry out or continue with the war for some time. Let's say we are stopping it for some time period. So this is the ceasefire which is taking place. Now look at this previous year question. The term two-state solution is sometimes mentioned in the news regarding which country? So we know Israel, right? So very easy question, but such questions are also asked by UPSC. Okay. So now we are observing that this war is going on since a long time. See, the war started between Israel and Hamas, right? Later on, Hezbollah. Hezbollah is a militant organization which is from the country called Lebanon. Okay. So already the war was going on between Israel and Hamas, and later on Lebanon became part of it. So now Israel and Lebanon were fighting. So now they said that we will stop fighting. So this ceasefire agreement which is coming into picture, it seems very similar to a 2006 UNSC resolution number 1701. Now what is this? We are saying that in 2006 also some kind of resolution came which was talking about Israel and Lebanon. So you see, in 2006 we saw one war between Israel and Lebanon. that we call as Lebanon War. To stop this war, to bring ceasefire, immediate ceasefire, United Nations came up with this resolution. It was being said that Israel will withdraw its forces from there. The Hezbollah which is there, they are going to continually they will go for disarmament. They'll not have any arms with them. Not just Hezbollah, any other armed group, they'll not have any arms, any weapons, anything with them. And United Nations will send this United Nations interim force. This force will be sent in Lebanon. They will help the Lebanese force to ensure that there is peace. There will not be any fight. There will be ceasefire. All this was said by this UNSC resolution in the year 2006. And now when Hezbollah and Israel are fighting, at that point of time, we are observing a ceasefire which is very similar to this resolution. So we are just showing some kind of relation with this resolution. At that time, this resolution didn't work, but now it is working. Interesting. Okay, so we're done with all the articles. Now the time for questions. First, a mains practice question we'll discuss, and then later on we'll go ahead with prelims practice questions. So examine the role of socio-economic factors and legal frameworks in addressing child marriage in India. How effective are the current laws in combating this issue? Yeah. Okay, we have got some comments. Safe harbor protection should be removed. Yes, very good. Forming cartels is an act of anti-competitive practices. That is true. Okay, good comments. Now look at this mains question. So here they are asking about socio-economic factors which are leading to child marriage. So in the body part, you should start with this part. First, in the introduction, talk about child marriage. The data I showed you, you can use any data and write it in the introduction itself to show the child marriage in India. You can make a small micro diagram to show that trend also. And then in the body part, write socio-economic factors like the poverty, social norms, education, dowry, safety concerns, everything. Then they asked about legal framework, yes, in the question. So mention about this act which we brought, the officers we are having. Then you mention about constitution and the international commitments we have, like this SDG 5.3, everything. Then we in the question, how effective are the current laws? So you can talk about the effectiveness. So you can say that the core problem with India is that we have laws, but they are not implemented in the right manner. So you can say that the enforcement has to take place. Judiciary has to take a key role in this to ensure that the executive is implementing it. So these are the points which you can think. This is the part of the answer which you have to brainstorm and come up with. These are the basic points which you can write in almost any answer. Okay. And then in the conclusion, you can say that a comprehensive action is needed. Specifically, just bringing law is not enough. You need the role of our society. When society wants, then that law will automatically get implemented at the ground level. Okay. So this is how you can conclude. Now, I suggest one thing as far as these prelims practice questions are over here. 2-3 questions we'll discuss. I'm not going to give you answer today. I want all of you to attempt these questions. You will get the link in the comment box. Please attempt the questions and we'll discuss the answers tomorrow. Okay. So the first question related to Subal 20 logistics drone. It's a product developed by IIT Kanpur with significant contribution from Endure Air, a defense tech startup. Second, it uses tandem rotor configuration similar to be used in Chinook helicopters. Then, high altitude. Then vertical takeoff and landing technology allows the drone to operate in confined spaces and areas with limited infrastructure. Again, the similar statement. Fourth, Subal 20 is powered by fossil fuels, which ensures high fuel efficiency and reliability for long distance travel. It's a very easy question, I can say. If you have just watched the entire lecture, then it's one of the most easiest question I can say. Okay, attempt this. Second, consider the following statements regarding Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, MGNREGA. Well, it guarantees 100 days of wage employment to each rural household in India, and it applies only to families living in areas identified as backward. Okay. The deletion of workers from Manrega's job cards must follow a due process as laid down in the Act, including the requirement for independent verification and documentation in MIS. Third, introduction of Aadhaar under Manrega was aimed at ensuring transparency in funds, but not led to any increase in the deletion of workers. Now this, I say, a kind of application based question. You have to think a little bit. Although you have watched the lecture, still you have to think a little bit to answer this. Okay, please attempt this one too. Now the last question. Which of the following adopted the Digital Markets Act to regulate the business practices of large digital players and ensure competitive economic space for new players? US, Australia, European Union or Canada? Easy, only if you have paid attention, a bit factual we can say. Okay, so please attempt all these questions. I'll be waiting for your comments. I'll be waiting to check who is attempting in a better way, how much you are understanding. Okay, tomorrow you'll get the answers. At last, one important announcement. Narayana IS has launched its 1 year and 2 year courses wherein you can go ahead with the entire prelims and mains integrated program. Here we will be covering all the topics related to your GS CSAT, wherein you will almost have 1,000 hours of lectures, wherein 800 hours are specifically dedicated to general studies, and CSAT 200 hours specifically for your current affairs. Then we follow a specific micro schedule. UPSC has given a detailed schedule, detailed syllabus to us. Now we have divided that syllabus into micro schedule so that we cover each and every aspect of that syllabus. So we'll have this micro schedule with us. And this course is designed in such a way that we cover the entire micro schedule. Then we have expert faculties who will be teaching each and every subject. Then there will be testing mechanism. You'll be solving many prelims, mains practice question. For example, 4,000 prelims question, more than 1,000 mains question you will be writing. So there will be a weekly test. There will be some tests, revision tests also. And we can say that if you go ahead with any of the program, we are ensuring that the student is in a position to attempt the paper in a prepared manner. So whether you are a student who is going to appear for 2026 or 2027, please decide. The admissions are open. Okay. So thank you so much for joining.